Hey mama, have you ever wondered what your God-given gifts actually are? The ones that shape how you love, lead, and show up in motherhood? I created a free spiritual gifts quiz just for moms to help you discover the unique way God has wired you, not just for church life, but for life in and outside your home, everywhere you go. In Ephesians 4, we're reminded that Christ gave us the gifts of apostle, prophet, evangelist, shepherd, and teacher to equip his people to bring glory to him and to do good works. Why don't you take a few minutes to find out how you were made to build God's kingdom right where you are? Head on over to onlylovetoday.com on the resources page to find your free spiritual gifts quiz. I hope to see you there. Hey friends, have you ever seen somebody on Instagram or Facebook that you wish you could meet in real life? Well, I did recently, and today my guest is Ayla Will. She is a mama of 3, adventurer at heart. She's passionate about unschooling her kids, embracing the freedom of, get this, life in a renovated RV, and soaking up as much time as possible outdoors. She has a deep love for intentional living, and she strives to find balance in a holistic lifestyle, one that honors simplicity, curiosity, and connection. For the Will family, life isn't about following a script. It's about writing their own. Together, they're choosing freedom over convention, learning through experience, and embracing the beauty of an unconventional life. Whether it's the quiet moments on their wild adventures, they're crafting a life that reflects their values, their dreams, and their own definition of balance. Let's go meet Ayla today. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for Ayla and her family and the adventure and life that you have them on. Just pray a blessing over her husband and kids while they care for one another so that we can have time together to discuss just the intentional life that you've called her to. And I just pray for just the mamas listening that they would be encouraged and inspired to maybe take a step towards unschooling or to step in an adventure that really looks different than the world around us, because you're calling them to that. And so I just thank you for all the creative ways we get to live and mother our kids all over creation in different ways. And so just bless our time together and bless Ayla and her family and all the adventures and wilderness that you've called them to. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, welcome, Ayla, to the Only Love Today podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I don't think it was more than just a couple months ago that I saw other people following your Instagram account, and I was like, who is this? What are these people doing? You just kind of like kept coming up in the reels, and I was always inspired, especially when I was having a hard day homeschooling or whatever, remembering about relational connection. And then when you did like a reel about like, yeah, we're living outside doing fun things, but let me show you the dirty dishes in my sink, I was like, yeah, I want to talk to her, because there is a cost, right? There is like, we can't do everything all the time. And so I loved that, yeah, you've just shared some just genuine real life things about your family online. And anyway, yeah, can you tell us, how did this journey begin of the Wilderness family?
Yeah, so as far as the Instagram part, I just thought it would be something fun to just like to share our journey a little bit. And I didn't think it would go more than like maybe 1,000 followers, but here we are. So yeah, we were both, I was raised on a farm. We grew carrots and cabbage pretty much. So
Wow.
I grew up definitely in farming lifestyle. We had a lot of mostly chickens, but horses, a bunch of other animals. And my husband was also raised on a little like homestead farm kind of thing. And that's where we live at the moment. We've been here 10 years. The last year we've done some traveling, but mostly have lived here for the last 10 years. This month, actually, we moved here when our second child was 2 weeks old. I would not recommend moving that soon, but we did.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've always kind of lived a bit of a lifestyle that isn't really the normal one for everybody else. And then when our youngest was about a year, I think, we decided that we were going to have my husband quit his job because he was logging and he was gone from like 4 or 5 in the morning till 6 or 7 at night. And so the kids would see him for maybe half an hour to an hour before they went to sleep. And then on the weekends, he was so tired he couldn't do anything with them. So
yeah.
And I was never diagnosed, but I had postpartum depression and anxiety really bad.
Mm.
So we decided it would be a good idea for him to come home for a while and we'd just live on as little as possible and spend as much time with our kids as we could. So I think he was home for 2 years and we did a bit of traveling. We had a tent at that point, not a RV, so it was a little bit more, a little bit rougher. But
Wait, so how many kids so you're living in a tent with how many kids?
we had three. Yeah,
Okay.
so we have three kids. And we didn't like do it for long
Mm.
term. I think we did it maybe 2 or 3 weeks the one
Okay.
summer, and we did a couple of little trips, nothing too long. And we did live in a house. We would just use the tent when we wanted to go to. We went to Alberta for a while and off to visit family
Okay.
and stuff. So, and then he ended up having to go back to work. It's about 4.5 years ago now. And then he worked for a few years again. And then last end of May, he quit again. And he has done a little bit of work like this winter. He did a little bit of logging again, and then he's done a few odd jobs. But since then, we've just been living as a family again and just, yeah, trying to spend as much time, excuse me, trying to spend as much time together with our kids as we can while they're still young. They grow
Yeah.
really, really fast. So
Yeah.
yeah, we just want to spend that time with them as much as we can. And it means we have to live on a really tight budget, and most people don't get our lifestyle, but it's what works for us right now. And I think, yeah, I don't think we'll regret that when they're older.
That's amazing. Like, this is just such a nosy question, but I know people will be like, well, we have bills. I could never live that scarce, or I could never do that, And so it does require a mind shift, a mindset shift,
Mm-hmm.
basically. How do you guys make it? I think you said he just takes some odd jobs here and there, and then you guys just live very tight,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
I make a decent amount, like enough to pay most of our bills from brand deals on social media right now.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. So I usually I don't work a lot during the day, but I do definitely more than I used to. It's been a bit
Okay.
of we've been struggling to find a balance with homeschooling and everything we have to
Mm-hmm.
do around the house and then spending time together and still making sure I get things done on time and meet deadlines.
Yeah.
I struggle a little bit with
Sure.
deadlines, but it's been working so far. And yeah, I've been surprised
That's
actually.
super cool.
Yeah, we've been praying a lot about it, and we've seen a lot of opportunities come in that we didn't expect.
And were you homeschooled, or how did you get to this point where you were in step with your husband and pursuing, we want to do more of an unschooling lifestyle? Like, what brought you to that point?
Right. So I was actually homeschooled. I was never even in a classroom. I don't think I even stepped
Okay.
into one other than like we go for piano lessons and sometimes I'd like look into one of the classrooms there. But until I went to college, I had never actually been in a classroom. And I didn't end up staying in college. I decided I didn't want to do business. But so I was homeschooled. My brothers, I have four siblings, and my two older brothers were the only ones who I think they went to like they went from kindergarten to maybe like grade two. And then we started homeschooling, and the
Oh,
rest of
wow.
us were all
Okay.
homeschooled. And then
Very cool.
I actually had decided that I wasn't going to homeschool my kids because we were very, like, with living on the farm the way we did and being very conservative, we didn't really spend a lot of time with other people. So I always thought, well, this is obviously the only way to homeschool because that's how I grew up. And I wanted
Mm.
my kids to be able to have friends their age and just be able
Yeah.
to go out in public and not be scared to death to talk to people. So I just assumed
Yeah.
I would homeschool. And then I actually ended up working as a teacher's aide for a few years right before we got married. And then, well, actually, right before I met my husband. And then after we got married, I did it for a year or so. And I started seeing what it was actually like in schools. And so that I
Mm-hmm.
was pretty on the fence about it. And then we moved here. And we actually partly moved here to my husband's hometown because there was a really good private Christian school. And we were like, well, if we're going to do school for our kids, this is where we want them to be. It's where he went to school for part of his childhood. And then he was also homeschooled.
Okay.
And so we thought maybe that would be an option. And
Yeah.
then he was encouraging me to maybe think about homeschooling. And the more I thought about my experiences working in a school, I realized I didn't want that for our kids. So when our oldest
Mm.
was getting close to kindergarten age, we decided, well, we'll just start with a year and see where that goes. And now
Yeah.
I think this is year 6. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and
Now you're in it.
none of our kids have ever gone to school. They've been in a classroom once for a soap making class. Other than that, they've never gone to school.
That's so cool. They do. You're giving them an education that
Mm-hmm.
is so rich and fulfilling. And part of why I wanted to have this conversation with you is because you've had to make sacrifices for it,
Mm-hmm.
which some people are not willing to make. They're not willing to live in a smaller house or live on less or not have fancy things because it does require for a lot of us, it is more expensive to homeschool.
Oh, 100%.
because you are going to go from, two potential incomes to one, and
Mm-hmm.
then also just there's no, free things coming your way. But can you tell us, we've talked a little bit about unschooling. Can you tell us just kind of like a basic day routine? Paint us a picture of some routines that your family participates in that would just help us understand what it looks like. Because we have this maybe like unschooling picture or
Right.
mindset that they never hold a pencil and everybody's vegan and nobody wears a bra, or like, just like, I
Right.
mean, I live in Colorado, so it can get nuts. Like if you say you homeschool, there's just so many flavors and even flavors of unschooling too, right? But can you just help us understand what unschooling looks like living kind of remotely in an RV as a family of 5? Hey mama, I have a question for you. What if you stopped chasing a version of motherhood that doesn't fit you and started embracing the one God designed you for? In my new course, Loving the Mom God Created You to Be, we'll walk together through your story, your identity in Christ, your spiritual gifts, and your unique calling so you can stop striving and start living with humble confidence and purpose. In this course, you'll get access to 10 self-paced video teachings. You'll also get a printable workbook, reflection prompts, and a spiritual gift quiz, all designed to help you walk in freedom, clarity, and joy. Whether you're working, homeschooling, or somewhere in between, this journey is for you. I hope you'll check it out.
Yeah. So there's people that say we don't unschool just because we do use some curriculum, because we tried doing without any at all. And I just found that I'm not the best at teaching things like math through just every day. I didn't feel like our kids were learning enough there. So I wanted to make sure we did just like math. And of course, they need to know how to read. And none of our kids have known how to read. Our youngest actually right now is learning, and he's almost 8. And he's the soonest out of any of our kids that have learned how to read. So we actually, our middle child, she just turned 10, and she just learned how to read in the last year. But now she's reading multiple chapter books a day. And before that,
And so that's encouraging for a mom to hear, like, take the pressure off. It's okay.
Yes, yeah. And it does, like, people aren't going to care if you learn to read at 5 or 10 once you're an adult. Like, nobody comes up to you and says, hey, how's it going? When did you learn how to read? So like, it's not a thing. And I think, yeah, like obviously there are things they need to learn, but a lot of that, like mostly with her, I didn't even really sit down and really teach her to read. Like it's a lot through just reading to them constantly. And they do a lot of audiobooks too. But like we do a lot of read alouds, and I've always tried to make sure I like have them follow along a little bit. And yeah, that's actually how my sister learned how to read too. None of us knew she knew how to read until we were sitting there in family devotions one day, and she just was like, that's not what it says. And she just read off the verse, and we were like, wow, when did you learn how to read? Because nobody taught her. She just figured it out.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of read alouds or devotionals, but like give us like, I know every day is crazy as a mom, but like just your kind of a routine that you guys do when you wake up. Do you do school first? Are you adventuring? Do you have a massive garden that takes hours because you're living off the land? Like give us a sneak peek.
Yeah. So we don't have like a really strict schedule. We have a bit of a rhythm, kind of, I would call it. So usually my husband and I usually wake up first. We've been sleeping in a little bit lately because we've had some late nights, but and our schedule, our routine has definitely been very off. But we usually wake up first, and then since we're stationary right now, and we've got my in-laws and my brother-in-law, 2 brothers-in-law, and everybody all right here, we don't have to worry about the kids, and we can just, they're still sleeping, and we just go for a walk. And then the kids are usually, well, this morning, one of them woke up as we were leaving, and he came with us, and then by the time we were headed back, the girls had figured out we were gone and they came riding their bikes to meet us. So we do that. Then they usually all grab their own breakfast. Sometimes I'll make something, but most of the time we all just fend for ourselves for breakfast.
Yes, I love it. That's what we
so
do
much
too.
easier.
It's so much easier.
It
Yep.
is. And then usually after that, I try to get them outside for a few minutes. I just find that works a lot better. And I have a thing about needing to get morning sunshine in our eyes before we're on screens, especially because we do use like teaching textbooks for math and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So I want them to get outside and at least run around for a couple of minutes and get a little bit of fresh air. And then after that, they'll usually come in and get started. Occasionally we'll have something else going on. This morning, I don't think two of them have done anything yet, but there's one in the bedroom doing math. There's
That's awesome.
also one running around with a bow and arrow at the moment.
It doesn't get more homeschooled than that.
No.
Math in the bedroom and, playing with knives and
yes. Yeah. And then they don't take that long for school. Usually we do. So they'll do teaching textbooks math, and that I love because I don't have to really do anything. I just have to go answer questions if they can't figure something out. And then after they're done school, they just get to do whatever they want for the rest of the morning. So they're usually outside. We spend a lot of time outside because this is under 300 square feet, I think. It's very small. Okay. So they...
And what... Sorry, go ahead.
So they just need to spend a lot of time outside for everybody's sanity.
What happens in the winter? Like, does it get very, very cold where you're at?
It does, actually. So this winter, we went very redneck, and we parked our RV in the yard, and we built a greenhouse over top of it. So we just had this giant greenhouse just over the RV.
Wow.
And then it was actually, so I don't know what would be in Fahrenheit, but we had up to minus 30, I think. And then it was still at minus 20. It wasn't freezing in the greenhouse.
Okay.
So it was nice and warm, and that actually gave our kids a decent spot to play.
So they're like outside, but inside the greenhouse.
Yes. And they
That's
definitely
super cool.
Right? So they definitely asked me a few times if like this counted as their outside time because we do 1,000 hours outside. And I was like, I think I'll count it. It's still very cold outside. And if you open the door, something can come eat you, I guess. So we'll count it.
If you open the door.
So it was outside enough. And and then also because we're on like a family homestead, and like I said, my in-laws are here. So also if we all were starting to lose our marbles, they could go over to Grandpa and Grandma's and just hang out there for a while, get a little change of scenery. We actually spend a decent amount of time over there. So
that's super cool. So the like videos on your Instagram, is that like, did you have to drive somewhere for that, or that's like where you live, like where there's a lake and mountains and usually all the things?
Usually if there's a lake, we do have to drive a little bit. We live right beside a river, but the valley we're in doesn't have a lot of lakes. So the lake we like to go to it's maybe an hour away, and we'll go camp there a few times a year, even before we started actually traveling a little more. So but a lot of it, like the mountains and everything, are right here.
That's super cool. And what have you learned, like, since just living life this way, letting your kids kind of roam the earth freely? How has that changed your kids and then your family's connection? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'm like a recovering helicopter parent. I definitely used to be a lot more into making sure they were always safe and nothing could happen to them. Obviously still don't want anything to happen to them. But to raise capable kids, we have to let them do dangerous things carefully. And they need to have the tools to do things and to go on adventures and use knives and that kind of thing without hurting themselves. And the only way to do that is to do it. Like they can't. If I keep them from ever doing anything that could hurt them, then they'll go into a situation and they're going to end up getting hurt because they don't know how to use, like, they can't trust their body to not fall off a rock because they haven't done it, or like know not to cut towards themselves with a knife. So I think, our goal is just to raise kids that are capable and know how to do dangerous things carefully, and that they are confident in who they are and what they believe. And I feel like it's definitely changed who we are as a family, and they actually definitely surprise me a lot with what they can do and just who they're becoming.
That's so cool. And you talked a little bit about the square footage in which you guys live. I think no matter the square footage you live in, things can feel very small.
Oh, yes.
During certain seasons of life or the winter. Do you guys get tired of one another like the rest of us? Like, especially during winter? How do you navigate living in an RV with 3 kids that aren't just like toddlers and need a smaller space, but are
Yes.
becoming large humans?
Yes. Yeah. We have our moments. I feel like we do really well for the most part. We actually all really enjoy living in the RV. And the kids
That's cool.
would prefer to have their own bedrooms if they could, but we have curtains and they share a bunk room, so we just have curtains across the bed. And if you need a moment, you just go in your bed and shut the curtain, and nobody's supposed to bother you. I mean, they're kids, so sometimes. But and then we have our bedroom and we have a door, thankfully. If I'm needing some space, I just go in there. And we've been a little bit bad at it lately because we've just been so busy, but ever since our kids quit napping, we've always done quiet time after lunch. And I feel like that makes a big
Mm-hmm.
difference, even if the kids are just outside playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have quiet time, and that helps a lot. And like the kids often, they'll just go play outside, but that still seems to like reset them a lot. And then I just try to read a book for a while, whether I'm outside in the yard with them or just in the bedroom. And I feel like that makes a big difference. And just making sure that if we need a few minutes by ourselves, we can go have that space to do it or go for a walk or something. That's a lot of times that's my go-to if I'm really struggling. Just my husband will be like, I feel like you need a walk or go
I
sit
need
in the
to
hammock.
be alone. Go sit in the
Yeah.
hammock. Yeah. Well, and it takes just like potty training or anything, it takes time to teach
Mm-hmm.
that to kids too. Like, hey, I need you to respect my boundaries right now, that you're not in timeout. You don't have to
Exactly.
nap, but like I've literally told my kids, you can't come through the kitchen.
Yes.
I'm going to spend time with the Lord or work, or like we're going to have some alone time. You can play in your room together, you can go out back, but you can't pass this barrier. And they're like,
Exactly.
but mom, like, no,
Right? Exactly. And that's why I'm
you
so
know,
thankful we have a back door. They've got a door in their bedroom. They can go in and out of there. They often
that's
forget it
amazing.
exists, but it is there. So if we need it, like, okay, I can't have you coming in here right now. If you have to come inside, go in the back door and try to be quiet.
Try to be quiet. It's okay. It's okay to have those boundaries.
Yeah.
What's been one of the hardest things I think that you've had to navigate? Is it the small space? Is it the winter? What is the like in this lifestyle of close family living and unschooling and being outdoors? Like what's one of the hardest things that you guys have had to navigate?
Yeah. I think
Or even
from
finances? I don't
right.
know.
That one is can definitely be a struggle, and I think a lot of people think that if you're doing this lifestyle, well, you have a lot of money. People tell me that all the time. They're like, "Well, I'm not as rich as you. I can't do it." Well, actually, I don't usually
Mhm.
share about my finances because that's not what my page is about. But also, we
Mhm.
definitely know what it's like to be sitting there going, "Okay, I hope we get paid soon." So
Mhm.
that one is actually definitely a struggle for me. I have really had to learn to live on a budget. I wasn't
Mhm.
very money smart when we got married. And so it's been a long journey. I feel like I've actually gotten decently good at sticking to a budget these days. So that really helps. But yeah, financial, everything has been a struggle a bit. And then I feel like, honestly, the biggest thing, like, I can deal with a small space. I actually don't mind it. And I love being with our family. So for the majority of the time, I'm like, yes, I absolutely love this. I think the hardest thing is probably I've been a people pleaser my entire life.
Mm.
And sometimes I care a little bit too much about what other people think. So I've had to learn to be okay with people not understanding the way we live and not getting it. And it's okay if they don't, because this is the lifestyle that works for our family. This is what we are very firm in believing, that this is what we need to give our kids right now. And maybe it won't be forever. Maybe at some point we'll go back to living in a house and like working a more normal job. I can't see that right now. But
Mm.
I think, yeah, we just have to be okay with other people not getting it.
And that's a hard lesson to learn on social media too,
It is.
because I mean, how many followers do you guys even have now?
I don't look very often. I think combined between Facebook and Instagram, it's probably getting close to 400,000. I know
What?
it's over 300, but yeah,
That's
it's way more than
crazy.
I ever expected. Like I said, I thought this was going to be like
Yeah.
maybe get 1,000 followers and be like, hey, we're going to build our homestead, because that's what it started as. And then we were like,
Okay.
yeah, actually, if we go build the homestead we've been planning for the last 10 years, so we have the land, we have 5 acres, and it's raw land just ready to be built on. We've cleared it and it's all ready to go. But if we just spend all that time just building a house, we're not going to get this time with our kids when they're still young enough that they want to be with us all the time. So that
Oh,
felt like we'd
wow.
miss out a lot on all of that. And we can
That's
always go
cool.
back and build on it, like we have it. So even if it
Yeah.
doesn't become what we originally dreamed of, then like we still have that and we can always fall back to that. But right
That's
now,
so
like,
cool.
yeah.
That's another way it started. So, I mean, you probably, as a kind of recovering people pleaser, just don't respond to the negative criticism or just have to like
Yeah.
let it wash
Yes.
over and just because there's got to be at least some with that,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
level of following.
Yeah, thankfully for the most part, like in real life, most people, I guess they kind of just expect that we've already lost it, or just are like, okay, well, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, people online they can be pretty nasty. I feel like at least
Mm.
online, I've gotten a lot more of a thick skin the last few years. So mostly it doesn't bug me. If people get really rude, that's what the block button is for. So
And
sometimes,
that's totally fine. Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes I'll reply and it's like you can tell that obviously they're not going to change their mind and they're just there to try to start an argument. It's like, okay, well then I'm going to stop engaging here. But yeah, occasionally there are people who say something nasty and you reply nicely, obviously. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't like, obviously you can't judge somebody's life from a 30-second clip that you're going to see. So, or you shouldn't anyway.
Sure.
But so sometimes people change their minds, but the majority of it is just like, well, I'm never going to meet this person. So how much do I need to actually care about their opinion? They don't
Hmm.
have any say in my life. And this is
Yeah.
what works for us. So, yeah.
That's so wise too. And it is a journey that we have to like keep going on because our kids watch that too. And one day
Yes.
our kids will have social media. And so how we handle those things of what's real life and what's not. But it's a little different as an influencer, right?
It
Because you're
is.
like trying to put stuff out in the world to earn a living from your family, but also inspire. But what would you say to a mom that is maybe just feeling burnout with trying to run the home and homeschool and do all the things? How could you encourage her with some of, the type B, let it go, unschooling a little bit, just confidence in letting some things go? How would you encourage a mom that's maybe trying to do too many things, and control so much? Because not every mom got to have an upbringing like you where you were homeschooled and saw that, like, we did things this way and my siblings still learned how to read and
Mm-hmm.
still became successful adults and confident. Most of us were schooled and we think, well, we have to do school at home if we want our kids to get a good education or whatnot. I don't know. How could you encourage somebody that's, trying to do all the things and wants to be swinging in a hammock, enjoying
Right.
her kids?
Yeah, I think it's important that we remember that we can't do it all and nobody's doing it all, even if it looks like it.
Mm,
It's pretty easy to judge somebody else's life from the little bit you see.
yeah.
Yeah, so nobody's doing it all. We all probably have dirty dishes in our sinks or some corner we haven't
Hmm.
cleaned in a while. And for honestly for school, like kids learn so much just in everyday life. Like education isn't confined to a classroom. Like they're going to learn just from helping you bake and from reading books and playing outside and finding little bugs and asking questions, and there's so much they can
Hmm.
learn just from life that sitting them down to memorize facts that they're not going to ever use again. Like,
Hmm.
we have Google for a reason.
Amen. And now AI, right?
Yes, like there are things they need to know and they need to maybe memorize some things, but most of it is stuff that they're not going to use again that we're taught they have to learn. And so
Hmm.
a lot of it I think is just unlearning what we've been taught and realizing that
Okay.
education, a lot of it just comes from life, and we don't need to sit down for 6 hours a day and everybody be miserable and trying to learn some thing that doesn't really matter that much in the long run.
Yeah.
And yeah, just our relationship with our kids is a lot more important than making sure they've sat down and memorized these facts today.
That's so true too. Because then they can feel really confident to
Mm-hmm.
pursue and do anything, right?
Yes,
Because we really have such a limited time. And hard work is a part of life. So sometimes that's in doing a math lesson, sometimes that's in navigating a trail outside or
exactly.
different things, chores and whatnot. But are there any like books or scriptures or people who have inspired your journey and like your family's values, things that you could recommend to some people listening?
Yeah, I read a lot. So
Okay.
I mostly read fiction, but I read a lot of nonfiction as well. And yeah, some of my favorites. I meant to write these down, but I didn't. Say Call of the Wild and Free, I believe it's called.
Okay.
And that one I really enjoyed. There's boy.
Is that a parenting like book on
It's
how to?
Yeah, it's about unschooling, homeschooling,
Okay.
just raising children who are wild and free. And actually, I found it
Yeah.
very encouraging. There was recently I read one called Let Them Be Kids, and
Mm-hmm.
it was more parenting, but also like schooling and just like letting children be children.
Yeah.
So that one was really good. Oh boy, I had these
That's
written down
awesome.
recently too, and those are definitely two that I would recommend.
Okay.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, there's also, I'm going to look it up real quick because I can never remember the
Sure.
text, but there's one that I've always found very encouraging. Okay, so Isaiah 40:11 says, "He will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom, and gently lead those who are with young." And so I've always found that very encouraging as a mom, because I don't know if everybody feels this way, but I've always felt like to have a walk with God, you need to be sitting down every morning and having like an hour of devotions and like being very intentional
Mm-hmm.
about always having that time. And love you, Skip it.
Yeah.
Well, you really need to work on that. And that it always has to be exactly like quiet and look away a certain way. But also, God knows what it's like to be a busy parent and be raising kids. And He also meets us where we're at when we come to Him. And so I always liked that He's gently leading those that are with young, and He knows what it's like to be busy, and that sometimes our quiet time isn't going to be quiet, and that we're going to be trying to read while we've
That's
got kids
good.
jumping on us and asking us to come see something or go help
Mm-hmm.
them tie a shoe or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's one
That's
of
so
my
good. I
favorites.
I forget, like it was a mom several hundred years ago that, gosh, I'm gonna have to look this up, but she would like, I think she had like 10 or 13 kids or something, and she would just like put her apron over her head for a second to like pray and just breathe for a minute.
Yeah.
But I like that you said sometimes our quiet time isn't quiet.
Yes.
And I can feel like, gosh, I'm trying to spend time with you, Lord, but then really I'm just being selfish and wanting quiet, and I'm wanting my alone time, and I'm wanting it to look like this, and can't you leave me alone?
Right.
I just want to, read my book or read the Bible or whatever. But, God is working through all of that, and our kids do need us. There are healthy boundaries and things,
Oh, for sure.
but I like that you said that too.
Yeah.
Well, I want to connect more people with you today. So where can people find you online? How can people connect with you? And then do you have any offers or things for our listeners?
Yeah, so I mostly just do affiliates at the moment. I don't have any. I would like to
Okay.
get some products going, but I haven't yet. But
Okay.
people can find us. We're on Facebook and Instagram as The Wilderness Family. Wilderness has two L's because we're the Wills. So I thought that was a fun play on words.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're on
Okay.
Facebook and Instagram, maybe YouTube eventually, but for now that's where we are. Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today and answering all my nosy questions about your life.
well, anytime.
I hope that, just the moms listening would just be encouraged that, and it may not be to have a life like yours, but we're just all trying to do our best in a certain way, but comparing with others and just needing to be free to be like, okay, like, God's called me to New York City and we're going to have an apartment life as a family. What does that look like?
Right.
How do we get outside? How do we enjoy our kids? But wherever we're at, just to be encouraged to spend time with our kids relationally and not put in a box what our parenting or our kids' education should look like. So thank you for coming to share some of your story today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.